There we go. Hello, everybody. Can everyone hear me? I hope. I'm Diane Porterfield-Bourne. I'm a nurse practitioner. I've worked with the NHS for over 30 years. I'm based in Worcestershire, and I've got some private menopause clinics, and I give talks within business on menopause as well. I prescribe HRT, and I help support women all over the UK with menopause. So that's a little bit about me. So the reason about this evening really is that why do we need to talk about menopause? Well, I'm sure if I asked each one of you, you'd be able to tell me the reasons why we need to talk about it. Because we do find that over the years there haven't been much communication and much discussions and support for women with menopause. It's always been something that's been sort of like hush hushed, let's not talk about it, or she's having one of those turns, or it's the change, and everything's just so negative about menopause. And there's a lot of things in the media, also discussions amongst ourselves, our friends, our families, and generally everything associated with menopause is a negative thing. It's obviously it's something that happens to every woman, but it's all part of an aging process. But again, as women, we don't want to be told that we're getting old. But the whole thing with menopause is that we can't ignore the fact, because menopause affects every woman. But what we can do is actually think, okay, well, I know that there are going to be some changes in my life, and I need to find out what's going to happen. So therefore, I'm as well educated as I can be to deal with the symptoms and the effects of the menopause to improve quality of life. And that's sort of what this whole program is about in a nutshell. It's about educating people. So Tammy, would you mind telling us a little bit how this menopause awareness program started?
Absolutely. So the Menopause Awareness Programme started predominantly from the success of a collaboration that myself and my colleague Sam did last October, and that was in celebration of the World Menopause Day. And it came to light that there was so many of our workforce who were genuinely interested and wanted to talk and learn more about this topic. And so with a little bit of collaboration across the STP, it was decided that it would be a good idea if we set up a platform similar to how we're doing now, so that we could get that wider reach across the whole of the Black Country and West Birmingham STP and make this more widely accessible. So off the back of this, we worked together to create a menopause guide as well, which would sit alongside this programme and provide that much needed information to each organisation's HRs and to staff. So that's pretty much where it came from, sort of from the back of a successful event last year.
Thank you very much, Tammy. So what are we going to be talking about? What we're going to be talking about for this programme and over the next few months? Well, what we're going to do is each month we're going to be talking about different topics associated with menopause. All the things that I think people really need to know about. So we're going to be talking about hormone replacement therapy. We're going to be talking about the long-term effects of menopause. We're going to be talking about the psychological effects, the physical symptoms of menopause. And then obviously, most importantly, about dealing with menopause in the workplace. So there are lots and lots and lots of subjects. That's just a small bit of it. And we're going to be doing monthly talks between now and November. The aims of this, obviously, it's all about increasing our knowledge and understanding on menopause so that we can get rid of some of these taboos associated with menopause and improve the health of the staff of the Black Country SDP workforce. So question for you is, how is this programme going to help you? Well, we're going to be educating, explaining, reassuring, and really getting down to the nitty gritty of what menopause is. And so once you've got that understanding of menopause, then you can move forward and think, okay, well, how am I going to deal with this? And what am I going to, who am I going to talk to? What help do I need? And so it's about improving your level of understanding and to improve your health. Thank you, Tammy. So what is the menopause? So the definition of menopause, it's a Greek word, meno meaning monthly and pause means to halt, to stop. But there's a lot of confusion about what menopause actually is. The day that you enter the menopause is actually the first day of your very last period. And so you don't have a period then for about a year. And through that 12 months and then 12 months and 1 day, you become postmenopausal. So people are thinking, okay, well, if the menopause only lasts a year, I don't understand this. So the period of time leading up to the first day of your last period is called the perimenopausal stage. And the perimenopausal stage is the time that people often seek professional help. I'm going to see the GP, etc., because of the classic symptoms we associate with menopause. So the perimenopausal stage can last on average about 7 years, leading up to the first day of your last period. Within Western society, women enter the menopause at around the age of 51, 52. And then, like I said, you go a full 12 months without having a period. If you had a period after 3 months or 6 months, you're still not there yet. But when you've gone a full 12 months without having a period, the day after, your class has been postmenopausal. So there's a lot of people that, like myself, that always asking people to keep a record of their menstrual cycles. It's really just to find out if you're still perimenopausal or you're actually going through the menopause itself. So what leads the menopause? What's it all about? Well, it's all about estrogen and it's all about our ovaries. As women, we're born with a certain number of eggs in our ovaries. And as we get older, the number of eggs in our ovaries gradually gets down and down and down. And so when we have smaller numbers there, the ovaries decide that, well, you know, this lady's in her mid to late 30s, early 40s, etc. The ovaries don't need to be producing any more children anymore. And the number of eggs has dwindled down, so the estrogen production of the ovaries starts to drop. And this is actually what pushes us to get the symptoms of menopause. The symptoms of menopause are caused by estrogen deficiency. So as our ovaries start to fail, it brings on all the classic symptoms that we all love about menopause: hot flushes, night sweats, anxiety, extreme tiredness, etc. But in the perimenopausal stage, there's an awful lot of fluctuation of hormones. They're up and down, up and down, up and down. People are getting migraines, having night sweats, they feel dreadful, and then they go for a couple of days not feeling too bad, and then it also kicks off again. And you can still be having regular monthly periods all through the perimenopausal stage. But it's a sure sign that things are starting to change if you're starting to get these symptoms, or certainly they would need investigating. So how does the estrogen deficiency affect us? Well, it affects us in lots of physical and emotional ways. Many women experience the physical symptoms or vasomotor symptoms that we call them, and your night sweat. But the emotional symptoms can be a lot more subtle, but actually a lot more debilitating. And there's things like the anxiety, reduced confidence, and then obviously the other symptoms are things like brain fog, where you literally can't remember where you've left anything, or you've put things in some very strange places. And the physical and the emotional effects of estrogen deficiency for some women can be quite subtle. They're thinking, oh well, you know, I've got a few little bits of brain fog. I'm having the occasional sort of like feeling a bit warm, but that's about it. And then other women can have really very significant symptoms that severely impact on their quality of life and their ability to function, have relationships, and certainly go to work as well. Thank you, Tammy. I think quite a lot of us could probably relate to that picture. Obviously, maybe not quite so much through the winter, but when you've got the heating on, but certainly in the summer as well. When the hot flushes and the night sweats can literally be really soul destroying and have a real impact on your quality of life. Some women can have, just like I said before, just a little bit, feeling a bit warm. Other women can have hot flushes. They're having sort of like maybe 15, 20, 30 a day. And there's a significant association of anxiety with them, as well as other physical symptoms as well, which we will talk about in weeks to come. So yes, I like that slide. Thank you, Tammy. So the question that I'm always asked whenever I do any presentations is 6 million questions about HRT. It's a huge subject, and it's something I've studied for quite a long time now. And I understand about menopause, and I understand about HRT. So this is a very brief overview of what HRT is. We'll be talking about this in a couple of weeks' time, a couple of months' time. So hormone replacement therapy, what it is fundamentally is you are replacing the hormones that you are now deficient in. So the ovaries are starting to fail. The ovaries are the organ that produces virtually all of our estrogen. So when the ovaries start to fail, estrogen levels plummet and therefore become deficient in a hormone. So when we start to think about hormone replacement therapy, other than just maybe 1 or 2 types of HRT, which are rarely prescribed these days, all of the hormone replacement therapy is replacing the exact same hormones that your body is no longer producing. You're literally just putting in what your body isn't producing anymore. If you imagine a little bit like insulin, the hormone insulin isn't being produced anymore by cells within the pancreas. So therefore you have injections of the hormone insulin and you're just receiving it in a different route. And HRT is the same principle in the fact you're receiving that hormone through a different route because your body's no longer producing it anymore. And hormone replacement therapy, we talk about several hormones, which I'll talk about in a bit. So people say to me, well, why should I take HRT? My mum wouldn't take it and my grandmother would never have taken it. So why are you talking about it? And why do people talk about hormone replacement therapy? Or people say, well, I'm really scared about it. You know, all the frightening links and the media talking about the huge risks associated with HRT. Well, like with any prescribed and also non-prescribed medications, there are risks to everything that we do and everything that we put in our bodies as well. But the risks associated with HRT are actually quite small, but they're there. And it's not something that we can just completely dismiss. We all have our own individual risk factors. We all have our own individual family history. And there might be other reasons to do with our own personal health that we couldn't take HRT. But the reality is that for the majority of women, HRT would be something that most women could have. So it's a case that hormone replacement therapy is replacing that hormone, helping with the symptoms of menopause. But from a health perspective, what I'm more interested in are the long-term benefits of being estrogenized. It has a very positive effect on the heart, a very positive effect on the bones. And it's realizing that there is a slight increased risk of getting breast cancer when you take some types of HRT. The risks are very small, but they're a risk. And it's something that we would talk about a lot more when we talk about HRT in a few months' time. So the big question is why HRT? Some women might want it, some women wouldn't. But it's all about replacing the hormones that you're deficient in to improve your symptoms, your mental well-being, your quality of life, but also looking at preserving your bone density and reducing your risks of cardiovascular disease in the future. Types of HRT, quite a few of them really. You can get tablet form, you can get patches, gels, you can get estrogen in vaginal creams, you can get testosterone in gels and creams, patches. You can have the coil, the Mirena coil has got a hormone in it as well. So those are some of the types of HRT. And GPs, such as myself, we prescribe regulated HRT. There's always this big sort of like discussion about what is HRT, what is bioidentical HRT. Well, in the health profession, generally, we just call it HRT. We don't really give it a particular name. It's HRT. So when people say to me that, do you prescribe bioidentical HRT? They're sort of implying, or I certainly investigate that, I think they're implying what we class as being unregulated bioidentical or unregulated compounded bioidentical HRT. Bit of a mouthful. I think we just have to know that what is regulated is what I prescribe, your GP prescribes, what the hospitals will prescribe, and what some of the leading experts in menopause describe for you. So, the, un- the unregulated um, HRT is something very different. This is when women go to specialist clinics. They often pay quite a lot of money. They have mouth swabs done for saliva, and they then make a HRT specially for you in that special clinic. But these types of clinics are unregulated and therefore deemed unsafe because we don't understand the medication that's being prescribed. We don't understand drug interactions with it, and we just say that it's not advisable to do that. So regulated bioidentical HRT is what your GP and I prescribe. Unregulated compounded bioidentical is what these select clinics prescribe. Thank you, Tammy. But the types of types of menopause. There are a few types of menopause, sorry. Medically induced menopause is when women have certain medications that actually induce the symptoms of menopause, predominantly by blocking estrogen. So they're blocking the estrogen, such as chemotherapy, if somebody's had breast cancer, for example. It blocks the estrogen, so therefore people are going to get menopausal symptoms because that's the main aim of what that medication does. So that's a medically induced menopause. A surgically induced menopause is when women have hysterectomies. And if you can have your uterus removed, your fallopian tubes, and you can have your ovaries removed as well. If you have a hysterectomy and your tubes removed, but your ovaries are left in place, they often do that with younger women. The ovaries will fail after about 18 months to 2 years anyway. So therefore, they will just not produce the amount of estrogen that they should. And these women generally go into menopause a lot sooner anyway. But women that have had a full hysterectomy and they've had their ovaries removed, they go straight into surgical menopause because the reality is that the ovaries have now gone and they can't be producing any estrogen. Natural menopause, this is what affects obviously the majority of women, whereas I've said previously that the ovaries just start to fail. They're not producing any eggs anymore. The amount of estrogen they're producing is just getting less and less and less and less. And eventually the levels go really low. And it's the deficiency in the estrogen predominantly that causes all the symptoms of menopause, like I said, that we love so much. Thank you, Tammy. Okay, so just really to talk about the support that we can offer you. We're going to be giving you some twice monthly presentations on different menopause topics. So today was just a real overview of what we're going to be talking about and sort of the layout of what's going to happen. I'm hoping that when we start to talk about menopause, it really is a catalyst to say to people that we need to be addressing these symptoms more. We need to be dealing with this. We need to be being more open, more vocal about menopause, and we're going to be generating discussions. And also, you're going to be able to find out where you can actually get some support as well. So after I finish my presentation, we'll be having a 30-minute question and answer session. So anybody please have any questions, then please either pop them in the chat to Tammy or raise your hand and we'll talk about that shortly. And then afterwards, we're going to be having a very informal chat with the menopause cafes in which Tammy will help sort that for us. Now, getting support, if you're experiencing menopause symptoms within the workplace, there are a few things that we need to think about. If you've really just started to identify that maybe I am menopausal, what am I going to do? The first thing you need to do is obviously go and see your GP, but you need to be talking to your line manager, human resources, the wellbeing team, depending where you're working, and also occupational health. There's lots of advice there for you. Tammy will talk about this in just a couple of seconds here. I've got some information on my website called borntocare.co.uk, which talks about a lot about menopause. The Women's Health Concern is a really good website for information, real evidence-based information on menopause. That's the patient arm of the British Menopause Society. And then the final website there is the NHS one on menopause. Also, if there's any nurses there, the Royal College of Nursing have got a quite large policy about menopause, which is really informative. So Tammy, over to you. You can talk a bit more about this.
Oh, thank you, Diane. So as Diane touched on, if you do need support, and obviously there's this forum which we're hoping to give information and educate our female workforce on all aspects of the menopause. It's also worth pointing out that this time of life, it is acknowledged as a life event. And so if you do find that you are struggling mentally or emotionally, it is worth noting that as part of the Black Country and West Birmingham STP, each one of us within the workforce have full access to the Black Country Healthcare Hub. So it's the Wellbeing Hub, where you are able to self-refer straight into the service, and you will be given the opportunity to receive mental health support should you find that that's something that you need to work alongside navigating the menopause journey for yourself. So on this slide, we won't be sending slides out. However, there are a few links there. So based off the back of today, you will get an email about 10 minutes after the event ends, and there will be links to everything that we've listed on that slide there. So you will be able to access directly each one of those links to get further support. Okay, thank you. And also, what we are doing is hoping to get some of your feedback, because these sessions are for you. And we want to do our best for you, and we want to hear about what your thoughts are based on these sessions. So you will be sent a link following today's session. If you would spend a couple of minutes for us, that would be greatly appreciated, so that we can help to drive these sessions forward and make them exactly and shape them exactly how you want them. If you do have any questions or thoughts or topics that you think we've perhaps not covered, or you've got any suggestions and you don't feel that's something that you could communicate on the survey, then please do give myself or Samuel Skelding an email. We have set up and created these sessions for you, so we would be more than happy to hear about your thoughts if you want to share. And then finally from myself, just to link in with what Diane said, we have got a few more sessions taking us right through to the end of November. And so next month's session is already open and available to book on. So our next session is going to be the symptoms of the menopause. So that will be 2 dates in April. So those dates are already open to book your place if you haven't done as yet. And I've just popped the link there for you, but again, that information will all be on your email a bit later on after today.